Lael Collins back at practice for the Bengals. Mike Petraglia inside Paycor Stadium. Here on Thursday, the Bengals got a boost on their offensive line when Lael Collins, the starting right tackle, was back on the practice field for the first time since September 16th. That would be 2 days before the loss in Dallas. Lael Collins managing that back issue of his very, very carefully, as of course are the trainers and the coaching staff of the Bengals. They don't want him doing anything that would possibly tweak the back, but Lael Collins told me here on Thursday that he's good to go. He's looking forward to getting back to practice, and indeed on Thursday he was back on the practice field working with Frank Pollock, the offensive line coach. Pollock was actually grabbing him by the waist and by the shoulders, moving him into position, telling him what kind of leverages he wants to see on different types of zone blocks to the outside. Those are the kind of blocks, by the way, that Joe Mixon said the Bengals are just this much off and just a hair off in terms of breaking a long, explosive run. So maybe if Lael Collins, with that rest that he's had the last 2 weeks in terms of no practice, of course he did play against the Jets and the Dolphins, but he hasn't been practicing. He feels refreshed, and perhaps maybe that is the difference that we need to see from the Bengals in terms of their run game to really put up some big numbers that have been lacking so far this year. Joe Mixon averaging just 2.7 yards per rush in the 2022 season through 4 games. Of course, Brian Callahan brought up an interesting point here on Thursday. Part of the reason you haven't seen the Bengals do a lot of running early in games is because they fell behind by 11 points and by 14 points in Pittsburgh and Dallas, respectively, in those games. So perhaps the key for the Bengals running attack is to get a lead or at least keep it close, maybe by ahead by a score or behind by a score, and really have a strong commitment to Joe Burrow under center, getting the run game going, and not just getting the run game going, but if you start having the threat of a run game, you have the potential of play action pass. And that is something Brian Callahan would like to see the Bengals and Joe Burrow implement a little bit more. On this day here on Thursday, the Bengals also had Cam Taylor-Britt as the scout team quarterback for Lamar Jackson, who they will face on Sunday night in Baltimore. Cam Taylor-Britt laughing and joking about the 65-yard dime that he threw deep in practice on Wednesday. Just went off the fingertips of Trenton Irwin in practice. We followed that up with Brian Callahan here on Thursday and asked, is that really true? Can he throw the ball 65 yards in the air? And Callahan said, oh, yeah, he might even be able to throw it 70 to 75. He's got that strong of a throwing arm. Of course, Cam Taylor-Britt still on injured reserve, but he was activated to the 21-day window that the Bengals have to activate him. But he was activated on Wednesday to start practicing. So Cam Taylor-Britt is eligible to start practicing, but again, he remains on IR as he is coming back from that core muscle issue. Also practicing with the Bengals is Kareem Khalid. He, the defensive end, injured his hamstring during the preseason. He is back on the practice field as well for the Bengals. Evan McPherson, he was listed as limited in practice on Wednesday with a groin issue. He was back to full participation here on Thursday. That is also a very good and very important sign for the Bengals special teams. Also here on Thursday, Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan was talking about the explosiveness they have seen and the growth in the receiving game of one T. Higgins, the third-year star player out of Clemson, has really been able to take advantage of some of the one-on-one matchups that he's been getting, most recently against Xavier Howard, the tremendous cornerback of the Miami Dolphins. You'll recall the second touchdown of the game for the Bengals in that Thursday night 27-15 win was the 55-yard bomb down the left side on the go route as T. Higgins beat Xavier Howard, leaving him literally in his wake as he caught the pass and ran into the end zone. It's been really a great year of growth and development, according to Callahan, for T. Higgins. It's something that he looks forward to seeing for the rest of the 2022 season. And as long as teams are going to double team T. Higgins and give him bracket coverage or cloud coverage over the top, however you want to call it, Bengals are going to look to T. Higgins to perhaps take up the slack on the opposite side of the field. Of course, last year, everybody remembers the 81-yard catch and release and run after the catch by Jamar Chase against the Baltimore linebackers and secondary in that 41-17 win in Baltimore. No doubt the Ravens and John Harbaugh have been showing that tape throughout the week to the likes of Marlon Humphrey in the Ravens secondary film meetings that have been taking place in Owings Mills. We'll see how the Ravens adjust to that Sunday night in Baltimore. Okay, that'll wrap it up for this edition of a Bengals Report here on the CLNS Media Network. We have you covered all season long. Follow me on Twitter at Trags, Trags. Follow all the coverage on clnsmedia.com, including my story on Joe Burrow and what he is doing with the Joe Burrow Foundation announced this week, and why it's so very important to both parents and children in the communities of Ohio and Louisiana. And be sure to subscribe to the Jungle Roar Podcast YouTube link. Click on that link below. I want to hear all your comments, good, bad, and indifferent. Inside Paycor Stadium, Mike Petraglia, CLNS Media.